What is up, everybody? Back with another Bryce Talks Metal Rock and Metal Hall of Fame induction here. Thought I'd bring this back. It's been about 7-8 months since I did one of these. I started up my own, like, rock hall type of thing, just to bring attention to bands that a lot of times the real rock hall ignores. Thought to bring this back just because, as many of you know, they did just release their 2022 nominees a couple weeks back, and as you'd expect, it's pretty bad overall. Just from a standpoint of, like, most of them aren't even rock artists, which, you got Dolly Parton, Eminem, or some of the people that are nominees this year. And I'm sure I'd expect people like that to probably get in, just knowing the history of how dumb that establishment is, inducting non-rock artists all the time while ignoring great classic rock acts, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. Believe it or not, these 5 bands I'm about to talk about are not in the Rock Hall. It's ridiculous. You'd expect them all to be first ballot. But yeah, I thought I'd bring attention to these, so here we go.
At a point below zero, there is no place left to go. 600 unknown heroes, killed like sleeping buffalo.
The first band up today is going to be Thin Lizzy. Great classic stuff here. They're from Ireland, formed way back in 1969, so they're old. A lot of classic stuff. Their first album came out in 1971. Their most recent studio album came out in 1983, so they released 12 albums in that span. Very efficient band as far as an album release standpoint from when they were mainly active. That was their main run there. They've had different incarnations of the band that were reprised in later years, but the years with Phil Lynott on vocals and bass, the frontman of the band, is the Thin Lizzy I'm talking about here. So Phil obviously gets inducted. He is the face of the band. He's a really cool frontman, one of the best of all time. R.I.P. to him. Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson, who are both amazing guitar players. They were an early band that had that twin guitar attack, so they were really influential and helped materialize that sound and style, and they're just awesome guitar players. Great tone, great riffs. The melodies that you hear, the harmonizing between those guitar players is spectacular. Brian Downey, great drummer, kept their rhythm section is really tight and just really great. So those guys, and I'm also going to induct Eric Bell, who was the guitar player on their first 3 albums, who I'm not the biggest fan of those first 3, but I think he was a pretty instrumental member of the band getting started, so we'll induct him here. So those 12 albums, they did sell, I think one thing I saw said about 19 million, so we'll go with over 15 million. I'm not sure the exact number. So very commercially successful band. They are very influential. A lot of metal bands cite them as an influence. I know Dave Mustaine's a big fan of Thin Lizzy, who Megadeth's my favorite band, so that's pretty cool. But a couple other albums I've got Chinatown, really great one, and Jailbreak. Also got Johnny the Fox up on the wall. You can kind of see it, but a couple of my favorite songs, I'd probably go with Massacre and Suicide, but really love the live album that they released back in 78, I believe that one came out, and also I have Fighting on CD somewhere, but didn't grab it for the video. But great band, a lot of classic stuff. Thin Lizzy, first inductee of the day.
Yeah. Close my eyes and I'll let myself know. Yeah. Listen to and I'll let the music flow. Yeah.
Next up is Bad Company, another really awesome classic band here. They formed in 1973. They are from England. They're a super group. The band originally consisted of Paul Rodgers on the vocals, who is a fantastic singer, one of the best, most instantly recognizable voices in all of rock. Simon Kirke on the drums, and those 2 guys were together in the band Free before Bad Company. So 2 pretty notable guys getting together with the Mott the Hoople guitar player, whose name is Mick Ralphs. Great player, a nice bluesy style that I dig quite a bit, and the bass player Boz Burrell, who was in King Crimson for a little while just before this in the early 70s. He sang and did bass for 2 of their albums. So superstar lineup here, and they did not disappoint. That debut album, self-titled, from 1974, went 5 times platinum, several big radio hits on that one, and really, they got 10 songs that are all over the radio. You can't turn on classic rock radio without hearing a Bad Company song. So They've sold about 40 million albums. They got 8 of them that went at least gold, so very impressive. Remain relevant for a long time. They're still relevant now, and as I mentioned, that original lineup I'm inducting, and also the singer Brian Howe, who I'm a big fan of. I love the Penetrator album that he was on with Ted Nugent in 1984, and then he got the Bad Company gig shortly after. I think the first album he was on was 86, and then he was in the band up through about 92. But my favorite album with him is Holy Water for sure. Great stuff there. And yeah, this is one that I really just don't understand at all, how they're not in the real Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because they check every single box possible. Influenced, classic, sales, you know, big names in the band, quality material. It's all there with Bad Company, so they're here for me being inducted. As I said, you know, I don't know if I said this yet, but I'm going in chronological order of release. So first was Thin Lizzy 71, Bad Company 74. On to the next one. Coming in next is Boston, another great band. They formed in 1975. They're American, from Boston, of course, named after the city they're from, which is pretty cool. They only have 6 albums total, but with them, it's quality over quantity, because I think most of the stuff's pretty good, especially the first couple, obviously. That debut album is absolutely legendary, the self-titled from 1976, 17 times platinum in the US, so it sold over 17 million alone in the United States. That's the second best selling rock debut in history. It's one of the best selling albums in general ever of anything. So very impressive there. That production, it sounds so fresh and new and just amazing. Even today, just it sounds like it could have been released last week, and that's how great the production is for 1976. That's just crazy. But Tom Schultz, amazing guitar player. His tone, his riffs, his melodies are all so good in that tone. Instantly recognizable from him. And of course, Brad Delp is another one of the best rock singers ever, I think. Just super melodic, powerful, angelic voice. So those two guys obviously are making it. I'm going to go with Barry Goudreau also. I'm going to induct. He's a guitar player as well. Fran Sheehan on the bass. And I'm going to go with Sib Hashian as the drummer that I'm inducting. So all around, good lineup. But Tom and Brad are the standout guys for the band, for me at least, and probably most people. But their first 3 albums, you know, Third Stage from 1986 it came out, and their second album, Don't Look Back, from 1978. That second one, Don't Look Back, went 7 times platinum, I believe, and Third Stage was 4 times platinum, so that was kind of like a letdown for them. And when a quadruple platinum album is a letdown, slightly, I guess, you know, that's just crazy. You know, you're a freaking big-time band when that's the case, especially if you're a classic rock band like this. But man, great band. I don't know how they're not in the real Rock Hall, so make it here for me for sure. Boston. Next up is Triumph. Great band here. They're my personal favorite that I'm talking about here today, and a lot of great stuff with them. They formed in 1975. They're from Canada. A trio, which is really cool. Gil Moore on the drums and vocals, Rick Emmett on vocals and guitar, and Mike Levine on bass. And man, Rick is one of my favorite singers and one of my favorite guitar players in all of hard rock. I've listed him in the top 10 for both on previous videos, and it's always so impressive to me when there's a 3-piece band and the singer is doing all the lead guitar. I mean, he doesn't sing every song, but on the songs that he's singing and doing all the guitar, I think people don't really realize how impressive and crazy that is, or sometimes they kind of don't pay attention to how impressive that is. But the guy is a freaking beast on guitar and vocals. So amazing lineup. Of course, those are the 3 guys that I'm inducting. They did have a different singer on their last album, but the first 9 albums they did were all that lineup, I should say. But I've got several of them on vinyl here. Rock and Roll Machine is great. Of course, this one, Just the Game, has their big hit, Lay It on the Line, which is probably their biggest song, and I do like that one quite a bit. But I'd probably say my favorite Triumph song ever I'll tell you right now, is probably Street Fighter from the debut album, the self-titled from 1976. Super awesome, hard rocking song. What else I got here? Dropping stuff, but we got Allied Forces, which was their best-selling album in America, I believe. It went platinum from 1981. Also got Thunder 7 and Never Surrender. But just awesome band that I talk about quite a bit on the channel. Huge fan, definitely deserve it. Triumph. Next up is Foreigner, the final band I'm inducting here with this class, but they are freaking amazing. Classic band. From a commercial standpoint, they're the most successful on this list, having sold like 50 million albums. Each of their first 4 albums went at least 5 times platinum. A lot of awesome classic hits. They're all over the radio again. I think my favorite song by them, I would probably have to say, is probably Double Vision. That one is honestly a pretty heavy hard rock and riff right off the bat, hits you right in the face, and just the way they incorporate their background vocals and the harmonizations and the choruses. Lou Gramm is just an amazing singer. Another guy, pretty much all these singers are just some of the best in all of rock that I've been talking about here today. Lou Gramm is just amazing. Mick Jones on the guitar is great. And this band is half American, half British, or at least originally that's what it was. So Lou Gramm and Mick Jones obviously are making it. Ian McDonald, Al Greenwood, Ed Gagliardi, if that's how it's pronounced, I have no idea, and Dennis Elliott is who I'm inducting. But as I said, super successful band. So many songs all over classic rock radio. Same situation as like Bad Company and some of the other bands I've talked about today. But Foreigner probably might have the most, I'd say. Really, I do pretty much dig everything from that debut album in 1977 up through 1987's Inside Information. Like Heart Turns to Stone, even though it's kind of got that 80s pop hard rock sound, I do like that one quite a bit, and a lot of the early stuff is fantastic. Even like Cold as Ice, I always thought was a pretty cool song. Jukebox Hero, just so many awesome ones for them. So they're definitely making it for me. It's another band that I have no idea how it's possible that they're not in the regular real Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they make it here, the Bryce Talks Metal Rock and Metal Hall of Fame. Foreigner, and that does wrap up the third class. So let me know what you thought about these bands. Do you think they should be in the Rock Hall? If you followed along with those first 2 videos I did, I was saying to just give me 5 bands. Don't list a million bands in the comments, because I could go on and on for forever of how many bands aren't in the Rock Hall and deserve to be there. So give me 5 more bands if you haven't listed them yet that you think deserve it and would make your personal Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And until next time, thank you for watching.